The Galactic Council views humanity as weak, primitive, and unworthy of respect. The alien empires joke about how humans are barely more advanced than animals. When a small human colony requests diplomatic recognition, the Council laughs and denies them. But the humans issue a final warning, one that is ignored. Part 2. The First Attack. An alien empire, seeking to prove its dominance, attacks the human colony. Expecting no resistance, they send only a small fleet. However, when their ships vanish without a trace, the Council grows uneasy. A distress signal is sent, but the last transmission is chilling. They are coming. Part 3. The human warship arrives. Sensors detect an unknown vessel moving toward the alien fleet's homeworld. It is unlike any known design, running on strange energy signatures. The Galactic Council scoffs at the idea that it could be human, until the ship opens fire. Within minutes, entire battlecruisers are wiped out, and panic spreads. Part 4. The Battle for Supremacy. The aliens launch their full armada, hundreds of warships, to crush this insignificant human threat. But the warship fights like nothing they have ever seen. It moves faster than anything in known space, predicting their attacks, dodging effortlessly, and striking with unmatched firepower. The once arrogant aliens now realize their mistake. You said, Part 1. The mockery of humanity, 1200 words, Kaleko or interesting Hunachaya or third-person style, Malekniha or simple basic English ka use Karnaha right in paragraph for story writing. ChatGPT said, Part 1. The mockery of humanity. The Galactic Council was the most powerful governing body in the known universe. It was formed by the great empires of the galaxy, species that had ruled for thousands of years. They had fought wars, conquered worlds, and built mighty civilizations. But there was one species they never took seriously: humans. Humanity was small, weak, primitive. They had no vast empire, no great fleets. To the Council, humans were nothing more than a joke. The Grand Assembly. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with voices. The rulers of the most powerful species in the galaxy sat on their thrones, discussing matters of war, trade, and politics. At the center of the hall, standing alone, was Ambassador Elias Carter, the representative of humanity. His voice was calm, but his eyes were cold. "We request official recognition," Carter said. "The Terran Republic seeks a seat in the Council." The hall fell silent for a moment. And then, laughter. Loud, cruel, mocking laughter. The reptilian warlord Xalek slammed his fist on the table, his scaled face twisted in amusement. "A seat. For humans, you barely have an empire. You have no war fleets. No power." A furry, four-eyed diplomat from the Velari Dominion smirked. "Perhaps you should ask for a seat in the Merchants Guild. Maybe we'll let you sell food and trinkets." More laughter. The insectoid Chancellor Vrex of the Kryn Empire clicked his mandibles. "Humans have no claim here. You are a small species on a small world, with no influence. We rule the galaxy, and you." He leaned forward, his voice filled with mockery. "You should know your place." The council chamber erupted in laughter again. The warning. Carter did not laugh. He did not shout. He simply stared at them. And when the laughter finally died down, he spoke. "You believe humanity is weak," he said. "You believe we are nothing." He stepped forward. "We have watched you. We have studied you. And we have learned that you think strength comes from size, from fleets, from empires." His voice turned cold. "But strength is not numbers. Strength is not technology. Strength is will." The laughter faded. The council members frowned. "You mock us," Carter continued, "but you forget one thing. We never stopped fighting." His eyes scanned the room. "We have survived wars. We have survived destruction. We have survived against impossible odds. And if you ever try to harm us..." He paused. And then, In a quiet, deadly voice, he finished. You will regret it. Silence. For the first time, the council was speechless. Then Warlord Salak snarled. Is that a threat, human? Carter gave a small smile. No, he said. It's a promise. The dismissal. Chancellor Vrex waved a clawed hand. Enough of this nonsense. The Velari diplomat chuckled. Do humans truly believe they are dangerous? The room filled with amusement again. Ambassador Carter simply sighed. He turned and left. As he walked away, he whispered a final sentence. A sentence that no one took seriously. You will see. And then he was gone. The council never spoke of it again. To them, it was nothing more than the foolish arrogance of a weak species. But soon, they would realize how wrong they were. The Galactic Council had laughed at humanity. They had mocked their weakness. They had dismissed their warnings. They believed humans were insignificant. But soon, they would make a mistake. And that mistake would change everything. The attack on Outpost Theta. Deep in the Outer Rim, on the edge of human space, was Outpost Theta, a small Terran Republic research station. It was unarmed, peaceful, and isolated. The humans used it to study deep space phenomena. To the Galactic Council, it was nothing more than a minor outpost in the void. And so, when the Drakthal Empire decided to test humanity, they chose Outpost Theta. A fleet of 10 warships arrived in the system, led by Commander Zorvek. They did not send a warning. They did not declare war. They simply attacked. The massacre. The outpost had no defenses. The station's commander, Captain Reynolds, sent out a distress signal, but no human warships were nearby. The Drakthal fleet opened fire. Their cannons tore through the station's hull. Humans screamed over the comms. Escape pods launched into the void. The Drakthal did not stop. They hunted the survivors. They destroyed the pods. In less than an hour, Outpost Theta was gone. Commander Zorvek watched from his flagship. He grinned. This is what happens to weak species, he said. His officers laughed. And then, they sent a message to the Terran Republic. A simple recording. Humanity is nothing. They believed the humans would cry. They believed they would beg. But instead, they got silence. And then, 2 words. We're coming. The Council's indifference. Days later, the Terran Republic demanded an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council. Ambassador Carter stood before the Council once again. You allowed this, he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with rage. Your empires murdered innocent civilians. Chancellor Vrex shrugged. It was an unfortunate accident. Warlord Salak grinned. Perhaps humans should learn their place. Laughter filled the hall again. But Carter did not react. Instead, he simply said, You were warned. He turned and left. And this time, there was no laughter. The warship departs. In the depths of human space, the TSS Vengeance prepared for launch. It was not just a warship. It was the most advanced ship humanity had ever built. It was faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything the galaxy had ever seen. And now, it had a mission. The crew stood at attention as Admiral Ethan Graves stepped onto the bridge. Set course for Drakthal space, he ordered. The engines roared. And the Vengeance vanished into the void. The Drakthal had made a mistake. Now, humanity was coming. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Drakthal Empire had made a mistake. They had attacked a human outpost. They had massacred civilians. They had sent a message of mockery and superiority. But now, something was coming for them. Something they could not see. Something they could not stop. The arrival of the Vengeance. Deep in Drakthal space, the 10th Imperial Fleet patrolled the void. Admiral Krax, an old and seasoned warrior, sat in the command chair of his massive flagship, the Bloodfang. Reports of the attack on Outpost Theta had reached them, but the Admiral felt no concern. Humans will cry to the council, he muttered. They will beg for peace. His officers laughed. No one feared humans. Then, the sensors went dark. Sir, an officer said, frowning, we've lost our long-range scanners. Krax narrowed his eyes. Why? Before anyone could answer, the lights flickered. The Bloodfang trembled. Something was here. The first strike. In the darkness, unseen by the Drakthal, the TSS Vengeance drifted like a phantom. Its stealth technology made it invisible to sensors. Its weapons were primed. Admiral Ethan Graves watched from his command chair. His voice was cold. Fire. A single pulse cannon hummed to life. A shot cut through the void. And the first Drakthal warship exploded. On the Bloodfang, alarms screamed. What? Krax roared. Where did that come from? But before they could react, another explosion. Then another. Then another. One by one, the mighty Drakthal warships vanished in fire. And yet, they could not see their enemy. The terror begins. The Drakthal fleet panicked. We are under attack. An officer shouted. By who? Krax snapped. I see nothing. More warships vanished into the void. The Bloodfang's comms crackled. A voice. Calm. Cold. Human. This is for Outpost Theta. Then, silence. And the Vengeance struck again. The last stand. Only 2 ships remained. The Bloodfang and a single escort. Admiral Krax's claws dug into his armrests. Enough. Fire in every direction. Kill it. The ships unleash everything. Missiles, plasma cannons, ion beams. The void burned, but the Vengeance was too fast. It weaved through the firestorm like a ghost. And then, it fired one last shot. The Bloodfang split apart in a massive explosion. Admiral Krax never saw his killer. The message. When the battle was over, the TSS Vengeance did not stay. It did not celebrate. It sent a transmission to the Drakthal Empire. A message. One sentence. Humanity does not forget. And then, the warship vanished into the void. The Drakthal had hunted humans. Now, they were the ones being hunted. The Drakthal Empire was in chaos. One of their fleets, destroyed. 10 of their best warships, erased from existence. And the worst part, no one knew how it happened. All they had was a single transmission. Humanity does not forget. And now, for the first time in history, the mighty Drakthal were afraid. The Council reacts. The Galactic Council convened for an emergency meeting. Chancellor Vrex of the Kryn Empire tapped his claws on the table. We need to discuss the human problem. Warlord Xalek scowled. A problem? You think these creatures are a problem? Their warship destroyed a Drakthal fleet. Vrex hissed. In a matter of minutes. The room fell silent. Even the Velari diplomat, who once mocked humanity, looked concerned. Perhaps we underestimated them. Underestimated. Xalek growled. They are nothing. The Drakthal simply failed. But deep down, he wasn't so sure anymore. The panic in the Drakthal Empire. On Drakthal Prime, the High Lord of the Empire, Varax, sat in his war chamber. He had ruled for over a century. He had led his empire through countless wars. But now, for the first time in his life, he felt fear. He turned to his war council. Where is this human warship? The generals exchanged nervous glances. One of them finally spoke. We don't know. Varax slammed his fist against the table. How do you not know? The general hesitated. It appears and disappears. Our sensors cannot detect it. Our fleets fire at nothing. Silence filled the chamber. Then another officer whispered, It is a ghost. The hunt begins. Desperate, the Drakthal Empire launched a massive hunt. They sent out 50 warships, scouts, patrols, traps. They searched every system, every trade route, every asteroid field. But no matter where they looked, they found nothing. And then, the attacks began. One by one, Drakthal ships vanished. A patrol in the Exaron belt, gone. A supply convoy in the Velos system, erased. A warship guarding a colony, destroyed. And each time, the Drakthal received the same message. Humanity does not forget. The Council's decision. The Galactic Council could no longer ignore the growing terror. The Velari diplomat stood. We must consider a peace treaty with the humans. Warlord Xalak slammed his fist on the table. Never. They must be crushed. Chancellor Vrex narrowed his eyes. Then tell me, Xalak, how do we crush what we cannot find? Xalak had no answer. Because deep down, he knew the truth. Humanity was no longer a joke. And if the galaxy didn't act soon, the humans would come for them next. The Drakthal Empire was no longer laughing. Their fleets were disappearing one by one. Their warlords were terrified. Their people whispered in fear of the phantom warship that struck without warning. And now, for the first time in history, the mighty Drakthal Empire was on the defensive. Desperation in the Empire. On Drakthal Prime, High Lord Varax had not slept in days. His empire was bleeding. His fleets were afraid to launch. Every time a Drakthal warship left a station, it risked never returning. He turned to his intelligence officer. Tell me, he growled, where is the human warship? The officer hesitated. My lord, we still don't know. Varax slammed his fist against the table. Then find it. But the officer had no answer. Because the TSS Vengeance did not want to be found. A message from the shadows. Drakthal Colony, Gorath 7, was a bustling industrial world. Thousands of factories, millions of civilians. It had never been attacked. Until now. The Vengeance did not strike with orbital bombardments. It did not massacre civilians. Instead, it hacked into every communication system on the planet. And then, every screen, every speaker, every hologram, they all played the same message. A human voice. Calm, cold, unforgiving. You thought we were weak. You thought we were prey. You were wrong. Then, static. The message lasted only 10 seconds. But in those 10 seconds, panic swept through the entire empire. The Council's fear. The Galactic Council watched in horror. The humans are not acting like a normal empire, Chancellor Vrex hissed. They do not send fleets. They do not make demands. Warlord Xalak slammed his claws on the table. Then what are they doing? The Velari diplomat answered. They are teaching us fear. Silence filled the hall. Because deep down, they all knew she was right. Humanity's next move. On the TSS Vengeance, Admiral Ethan Graves stood on the bridge. His officers awaited his command. The Drakthal are afraid. One officer said, What now? Graves smiled. Now, he said, now we make them beg. The Drakthal Empire was collapsing. Their fleets refused to leave port. Their colonies were paralyzed by fear. Their warlords argued among themselves. And worst of all, they still had no idea where the human warship was. But they did know one thing. Humanity was not stopping. A desperate plan. On Drakthal Prime, High Lord Varax gathered his remaining generals. They were warriors, but they looked afraid. This cannot continue, Varax growled. We are the most powerful empire in the galaxy. And yet, we are hiding like prey. His generals said nothing, because they knew the truth. The TSS Vengeance had turned their empire into the hunted. Finally, one general spoke. My lord, we must do what no Drakthal has done before. Varax narrowed his eyes. And what is that? The general hesitated. Then, with shame in his voice, he said, We must ask for peace. The council's final debate. The Galactic Council met once more. The Drakthal had demanded an emergency session. Warlord Selek, once full of arrogance, now looked like a cornered beast. "We demand a ceasefire with humanity," he growled. Chancellor Vrex's eyes widened. "You? Asking for peace?" Zalek gritted his teeth. "We are willing to negotiate." The Velari diplomat leaned forward. "And what will you offer?" Zalek's claws dug into the table. "We will return all human territories we took. We will pay reparations." The entire council fell silent. The Drakthal, once the most feared warriors in the galaxy, were surrendering. But then, a voice echoed through the chamber. A voice that sent chills down every spine. "That is not enough." The screens flickered. The council chamber dimmed. And in the center of the room, a human transmission appeared. Admiral Ethan Graves of the TSS Vengeance stared at them. His face was cold, his eyes unforgiving. "You think you can erase the lives you took with mere credits," he said. The Drakthal flinched. "This war does not end," Graves continued, "until humanity decides it ends." The council members held their breath. And then, Admiral Graves spoke the words that would change the galaxy forever. "Kneel." The fall of the Drakthal. On Drakthal Prime, High Lord Varax watched the transmission. His claws shook with rage. But deep down, he knew. The war was over. His empire had been broken. And now, before the entire galaxy, the Drakthal would kneel. The moment was historic. The once mighty Drakthal Empire, feared by all, was now on its knees. Their warships were gone. Their warriors were defeated. Their High Lord Varax, humiliated before the entire galaxy. And standing above them, humanity. The surrender. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Billions across the stars watched the broadcast. In the center of the chamber, High Lord Varax stood stiff, his claws twitching. Before him, Admiral Ethan Graves of the TSS Vengeance waited. The entire galaxy held its breath. Varax's voice was low, bitter. "We surrender." Graves didn't react. "This war does not end with words," he said. "You will submit." Varax's jaw clenched. "What do you want?" The answer was simple. "Kneel." Gasps filled the chamber. A High Lord of the Drakthal had never bowed to another species. Varax's claws dug into his palms. His body shook with rage. But he knew. He had no choice. Slowly, painfully, he bent the knee. The Drakthal Empire had fallen. And with it, the balance of power in the galaxy was forever changed. The message to the galaxy. Admiral Graves turned to the council. "You all laughed at us," he said. "You mocked humanity. You thought we were weak." His gaze hardened. "Now you know the truth." He stepped forward, his voice cold as the void. "Humanity is not prey. We are the storm that comes for those who wrong us." Then, he turned to leave. His final words echoed through the chamber. "Remember this day, because we will." The aftermath. Across the stars, species whispered in fear. The unstoppable Drakthal Empire had been humbled. Humanity had gone from a joke to the most feared power in the galaxy. No one mocked them anymore. No one dared. Because now, every empire knew one undeniable truth. Humanity does not forget, and they do not forgive.